Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to Speed Tips by Bob and Chad. Uh, I apologize I had to miss last week and we had to postpone it, but we're here again this week. So bring your questions and everything whenever you're ready. We've got all kinds of things to talk about. How's things going with you, Chad?
Pretty good. Yeah, we're pretty busy getting ready, getting the new catalog for 2021 ready to go. We don't have really no trade shows to prep for. There's a couple that are possibly going to pop up, but normally we'd be getting ready to go to Vegas this week, but we weren't allowed to come this year, so we shipped our product last week out there to Pit Stop Performance and Fred Ryland, so hopefully we got enough product out there in Vegas to take care of our fine customers out there during that race week, and we're plugging away here.
Awesome. Well, I mean, at least you made the best out of a poor situation. It kind of sounds like you've got the racers somewhat covered, so they do have Wehrs products out there. It's kind of a shame that you and your dad and your nephew aren't able to go out there because as long as I can remember, you guys have been out there, or at least the times that I've been out there.
Yeah, it's an easy way for us to get to our West Coast customers, and I'm a little bit upset about the decision to not let us in, and I guess we don't really need to get into it, but it was a fun trip, and we love our West Coast people, and we've done our damnedest to get our product out there, and Fred does an excellent job for us in Pit Stop. I think we got them guys dialed in, so I'm not worried at all. Them guys will do a good job for us.
Great. Well, Todd, hi, Todd. We appreciate it. Presidential election predictions, please. Well, I do have one prediction. One thing that I am really looking forward to is about this time tomorrow night, because after we get through Tuesday, I can watch TV again. Because that television thing with all these ads and stuff has kind of become obnoxious, actually, to be honest with you. I've never, the negativity between everything is just amazing. So I'm quite sure it's going to work out for the best, and whatever it is, we'll live with it. Hi, Eric. One of the things that we're going to be talking about here coming up, and we definitely would like to have you guys' input, of course, too. But as we're going to start like every other week on Monday doing the same thing. What we're going to start doing is we're going to start picking the race car apart. This is the best time for you guys is the off season to learn your race car. First of all, to do the proper maintenance and to do what you really should do, you really need to take the car completely apart, piece by piece by piece, go through each individual piece on the car. The body, all the sheet metal needs to come off of it so you can inspect the car. And if for some reason you think that it might be bent, this is the time of the year to get it on a jig somewhere and make sure that the manufacturer says, yeah, the car's correct, because there's nothing worse than fighting the unknown. Now is the time of the year where you'll have the time to research all the unknown, and you'll be able to go, oh, we didn't know we had this problem. That's probably happened back in July. And I've seen those kind of things happen over the years. And one of the things that we actually used to do, and we still do, we've got some customers, a lot of times we bring the car in, and the car is a little older, and it's kind of been rode hard and put away wet a couple too many times. And so we bring it in, and we actually cut the nose bars off, put new nose bars on the car, put some fresh tubing up front, and it brings a lot of those old cars to life again. So, this is the time of the year to, start thinking about that stuff. I realize you're probably not into tearing it apart yet, but in 3 weeks, it's going to be Thanksgiving. So in 4 weeks, it's going to be December. and a whole, and a lot of the guys, we've got guys now that are working hard on getting stuff ready so that they can go to Arizona in January. And, you think, well, January, that's a long ways away. But when you pencil it out, it really is not that far. So those are kind of some of the things. And if there's specific things that you guys would like to know about, make sure you get a hold of Chad or get a hold of me, and we'll do our best. I did have a customer today that was in and was asking about one of the new load machines. And I told him that you had a new one that you're bringing out. So would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, we're working hard on our 2021. We're calling it our Gen 3 manual. So we had the stagger stick that we debuted in Boone there that we worked on so hard that we're getting close to having that ready to go to market with the patent. But we found this company that makes this little touchscreen, which is a pretty awesome piece, and we're going to implement that new touchscreen into our manual machines. So kind of like our touchscreen on the auto that we use AccuForce's technology there on our automatic machines, we're going to have a similar touchscreen to function our manual machines. And one of the things we're really excited about is it's going to collect the data and graph it. So currently on our manual machines, you have to run the switch and start and stop and gather your data and then graph it on an Excel file on your own. Where the new Gen 3 manual, it will take the data as you're moving the machine. So you still have to run the switch, move it the distance, but it's going to capture the data and then graph it for you. So we're really pumped about that. We should have that machine together here in the next week or two and then have them ready to go by January 1, if not sooner, actually. So
awesome
pumped about that.
So do you have a price point on it yet, or is that still in the works?
Actually, it's going to be pretty close to the same. We're looking at our pricing for the machines for next year. If it's going to be an increase, it's going to be pretty minimal. It's a $3,500 machine right now. I would predict maybe $100 or $200 increase on that for 2021, but nothing catastrophic. So we're working hard to keep the same price. So my boy Finney there in purchasing, he's always wheeling and dealing, and we get more volume and get discounts on things, and we do our best to try and make these as affordable as we can for the racer.
Sure. Well, I had this gentleman in here and was talked to me for quite a bit about it and then the load stick, and I kind of explained why he needed both of them if his budget would allow, and if not, how he should go about it. So, I told him to listen tonight, so hopefully he's online listening to this.
The dual stick's going to change too. So the same little screen that's functioning the stagger stick is going to function the dual stick. So we're really, really pumped about this company we found these components from, and we're going to implement them in the dual stick, the stagger stick, and the Gen 3 manual Ultraforce. So our 2021 lineup is pretty badass, to say the least. So
awesome. Any changes to the automatic machine?
I don't know. That thing's as good as it gets, I think. I mean, it runs the test, captures the data, and it's a perfect machine for doing really in-depth graphing and that kind of stuff. So on the manual, we won't be able to overlay graphs. It'll just be a one at a time, but at least we can at least look at it. So
awesome. That'll be cool. Hi, Joey. How's things going? How's my old buddy, Mr. Schrader, doing? We will not be in Vegas, or I will not be in Vegas. Just a situation where, I got some things going on that I don't know if I want to risk traveling. And right now, everything is going along pretty good. And so I'm not sure I want to do anything different at this point. So we're going to probably watch it online if we can and cheer all you guys on. Matt, we appreciate the videos. We enjoyed doing these videos. We enjoyed doing the schools. All that stuff is just a lot of fun. The question is are you running short shaft shocks on the left front of the Sport Mod? It kind of depends on the customer, but most generally we will actually put a 6-inch shaft in there and then put a 1-inch spacer on there, just so that there's not a lot of occasions that the Sport Mod really needs it compared to the modified. but that's how we build them, just in case, so that you have that option. Thank you, Jeff. Yep, everything's been going good. We've had a good week here so far. Well, it's only Monday, but I mean, we had a good week last week, and things have been going good. One of the things that, when we talked about that off-season stuff, and here's kind of my plug about the schools, we're planning on, and we get quite a few people that are talking to us about this throughout the on social media. We definitely are planning on doing the schools live here at the shop. We have the Sport Mod School, we have the Modified School, and we have the Stock Car School. Those are all be just like last year. All the information is on racetechinfo.com and Bob Harris Enterprises, or bobharrisent.com. So you can go there and check that stuff out. We're still planning on going out east. We don't have a direction on that yet. We're still following and paying close attention to the COVID stuff. We've got a good grip on it here, where I think we can do it here and remain everybody safe and everything's good. We've kind of went through, Amy and I and Garrett have kind of spent quite a bit of time researching all that stuff. So hopefully that's all going to work out well. So that's the plan. On a 3-link car with springs mounted on the housing, would you recommend running the springs standing straight up at ride height, top lean to the left so that they're straight up dynamically, or somewhere in between? Also, what cups would you recommend on the top and on the bottom? Well, my recommendation on the cups, of course, is the Wehrs cups. That left rear cup is so that when the car gets a lot of height, that extended cup that Chad makes works extremely well. His right side cup is made with a 1-inch drop in it, so that it kind of helps the car, the spring table of the car. So those work really good. The ones that we use on the bottom are the same ones that Chad makes. Now, if you're running IMCA, you've got to run the springs perfectly straight up and down. Now, if you're running any other sanctioning bodies, I don't know exactly what their rules are. If when you watch the, and I think we've got a video online somewhere of a 2-link car, how it works when you have all the rear steer in there. Well, them springs bend and look like a pretzel in there. We used to take and put like a stub on the housing and float the lower cup. But that's no longer legal in IMCA. It has to be welded solid. So if I wasn't running IMCA, I would probably try to float that lower cup somehow. That kind of takes a little bit of the bind out of it. Now, Chad's new cup that he's working on is going to work excellent on the right rear. And I think you're working on one that for the guys that want to run the real soft left rear spring, to be able to put that together in so you go off of the outside of the spring and contain that spring. You can talk about that, Chad.
Yes, you're going to be very excited. The OD Grab spring cups are actually coming out of the machine as we speak.
Oh, wow. I won't have to call you again every day. Where are those at?
They're going to the plater this Thursday. They will be back next Thursday. So we are pumped. They're some of the most beautiful spring cups in the world, I'm pretty sure. But the rear cups we're going to do the 304 short cup with the OD Grab. And what I talked to you about it and a couple other people, I think what our intent is going to be, if you're on a soft left rear, you're not going to want to run the 6-inch extended cup with the inside grab. So then you'll put an OD Grab shorty on the left rear also, because it's in tension the whole time and doesn't come off the spring. So we'll have OD cup blanks to weld to the rear end, and then we'll have the 304 OD Grab cup for the top of the rear springs when you're running the soft stuff. So that transition, all them spring cups should be done here in the next month. So we're pretty excited about that.
Awesome. I know I'll be really excited when we get ours in, because we got 4 cars out there that we promised to have those on before they race them. But I do think the one dude's probably going to have to put his on after he runs Vegas. So we've got those guys coming. I'm so confident in the experiment part of what we were able to do working with you this summer with that those cups are going to be they're just going to they're going to really take a lot of that bind out of those springs, and like I was talking about, with those springs flexing and twisting and stuff, that's going to be a huge help in my opinion. It'll just free the suspension up a little bit more.
For sure.
What situation, Matt wants to know, what situation would you use that short shaft? I would probably recommend, if I was to use one, I would probably use it more if the racetrack was super slick, someplace that's more of a stop and go, where you can get the car into the corner and let it rotate on its own, but then you need a little extra traction coming off, because the shorter shaft will help, and it's not a part that we've actually made shorter. I mean, it's actually just a 6-inch shaft and a 7-inch body, but that seems to be where I would use it the most. Around here, or most of the time, the sport mod guys are like the first or second class on the racetrack, so we don't get to see as slick of conditions as like the modified guys do that are the last show of the night, and so we haven't used it as much there. Can you explain the difference between regular birdcage and zero index? Go for it, Chad.
That's a weekly occurrence.
Yeah.
So the regular mounting location, 4.5 up, 4.5 down on the center line. When you get a lot of hike in the car, the cage indexes and cams over. So the bars, basically cam over and it won't come back. It's virtually a solid suspension. So what the zero indexing does, it offsets the trailing arms so that when you do hike the car and the cage indexes, the bars don't go too far, and you can theoretically run more chain to get more hike, more drive angle, to get more traction, and vice versa. So it takes the bind out of that left rear top rod and makes the left rear suspension happier.
And from my experiences, it works really well. Is it something that everybody needs to do? No. If you do it, the thing you have to understand, and this is one of the things that we're going to spend a lot of time in our 4-link class talking about it, because there's a lot of misconceptions that, it's the old deal where, I bolt these pieces on and I set this like this and magic is supposed to happen. Well, it's kind of a whole package, because there's some things you got to do on the front end to make the front end work a little better. Get the car. It helps to get. We tend to, with that setup, we tend to run a little softer right front spring. Seems like it gets the car on the front end a little better, and then you get the attitude of the car. Shock wise has got to be a little bit different, because now we're changing a little bit of the timing of everything. So when we change timing, our shock absorber is our timing device. So we've got to match the shock to that package too. So it's a great deal. And like, when this thing originally came out with, the biggest thing was, like Chad just said, to take the load, because if you take, your car when it's setting at droop, a lot of times these would still have load on that top bar, where now that's what this is trying to do, is eliminate that bind and load in that upper link and make everything freer. Post-Charlotte thoughts. Do you foresee a droop rule for 2021 and UMP modifieds?
Well, the only way to get that kind of droop is to have zero index.
Yes, that's the only way to get that kind of droop. Trust me, I never underestimate the
fun haters.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah, the guys that think they know what's, yeah, those guys. I'll just leave it at that. I never underestimate sometimes how some of the rules get in place. I don't know. Sport mods, left rear bar angle. And at what point would you move it? Do you know any new rules with IMCA? No, I really don't know any new rules. That's a good question, though. I need to start do some research on this to see kind of what's going on. Nothing that I have heard of that's any drastic situation or whatever. The left rear bar angle, the left rear bar angle on the Sport mod is actually a lot like the top bar angle on a four-link car. We run, statically, I usually run the car at about 25, 28 degrees. My magic point, though, is at full droop, wherever I set my droop, at full droop, I never want to see it go over 45, 47, 48, never over 48 degrees. If you get to the point where really when you're past 45 degrees, now you're starting to actually, the chassis starting to drive that tire down, but it's starting to be kind of like a povo stick. It's no longer, the old adage is like if you got a pole and you're trying to lift something, you're bending that pole, you're bending that pole, and you're bending that pole. But if you ever get it to the point where it's past that 45, now all of a sudden it changes the action, and all of a sudden it's more of a straight down mode. So that's kind of what that's always been my opinion. So I'm a little cautious. I would rather be a little under angled than over angled, because what's going to happen if you do get to that part where that bar is in a total bind, now all of a sudden the tire is going to take the load. Well, those of you guys who are running IMCA or any real 8-inch tire, they're not designed for that type of a load, because otherwise you just get a tire bounce. And if we get a tire bounce, you're breaking traction, and that's absolutely what we do not want. IMCA Sport Mod, base setup for bar angles, both lower bars and the Panhard bar. Well, we'll start with the left one. I just explained to you the left one, somewhere between statically, somewhere in that 25 degree range. But what I always do is I jack the car up underneath the seat and put it to droop wherever my droop is, where I feel like it's going to be. Then I'll adjust that angle so that I'm not really over that 45 degrees. The right rear, keep in mind, the right rear tire, as the car goes into the corner, initially the frame is going to go down and the tire is going to come up. So we've got to still stay with somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 degrees of angle so that it somewhat stays level, or it doesn't go too far past level. Otherwise, your steer is going to go from steering loose to steering tight. And sometimes that, if you have that condition, that's common. Sometimes like a mid-corner throttle push can be that way, is a steer problem. The Panhard bar, I've seen all kinds of different things. I try to stay 10, 12 degrees. I'm not a big fan of a lot of angle in that Panhard bar, because keep in mind, we only got an 8-inch tire on these things. And if we're putting a lot of angle in there, we're killing horsepower, which we don't have an overabundance of. We're loading the heck out of that tire, which is going to create heat, because if we overload the tire, we're going to work the sidewall. And both of those things in time are going to hurt you. It might be bad fast at the beginning, but it's going to probably go away at the end. So I'm not a big fan of angle. If I feel like I need to lower the Panhard bar on the rear end, once I'm at my 10 to 12 degrees angle, I lower the whole bar. I maintain the angle. I just drop the whole bar down, and that seems to be. I like how that goes. Do you have any of those spring cups we can see? I don't have any. I do have some on order. Yeah, some wise guy even. Yes, man, you hit the nail on the head the other day. I think maybe it was Austin that talked to you. Well, here's a number. I don't see an order on place. And the boy up the stairs he comes. I thought you said we had 100 of these on order. I said, we do. Well, Chad says, there's no order for those. I'm like, wait till I talk to Chad. Well, we got a part number. I said, well, then you need to put the order in.
We're having an argument about the part number yet, I think.
Oh, okay.
My Austin and me are having an argument, not for Austin.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, I am in a separate facility now. I'm at distribution. Manufacturing's over town. They're sitting over there, a whole skid full of them. So, no, I don't even have one out here. So
2 weeks, we'll have one we can show you.
Yeah, we'll have them all over face pages.
So, yep, in 2 weeks, we'll have one we can show you. Okay. A non-setup question. What do you guys think about the Gateway Nationals running the stock cars rather than the midgets? I think it would be a better show.
No doubt, but I think he's looking for the limelight. He wants the Kyle Larson to be able to come, and I think he's looking for a big time deal like that. But stock cars would be badass in that dome for sure.
Yeah, that would be a show. Oh boy. Yep, no doubt. That would definitely be a good show. I can honestly say I'm not a huge midget sprint car type fan. I've been around, the modifieds and late models and stock cars all my life, so I'd probably definitely vote for the stock cars. Plus the fact we sell shocks to stock cars and we don't sell shocks to midgets, so I would lean towards our customers. Two-part question. On a USRA B mod, what's the advantage, disadvantage of running the slider behind the rear end on the right rear versus spring on top of the housing? Okay. Keep in mind now, even though you have a solid upper link, when the car rolls and you have a lot of drive angle in one side and not as much in the other side, the car's going to get quite a bit of steer. So when it gets steer, it's going to, that right rear is going to actually try to tip down. So with it being on a slider, this is what we used to do back in the day. We had a spring slider on the front of the housing on the left rear, and a spring slider on the right rear behind the housing. Tremendous traction. It was a little tricky in the middle of the corner with the spring being behind the housing. It actually tightens you up a little bit getting into the corner. But the second you get back on the throttle, with it being behind the housing, it will actually allow the car to fall a little bit more on the right rear and load the left rear a little bit harder. Second question, we're going to order the Wehrs 2-link mounts. Is there a single shear? Is the single shear sufficient enough, or better have the double shear and the modular or not? Thanks for all the great tips. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Go ahead, Chad.
We actually don't even make a single shear anymore, just because, under normal conditions, just running around, it's fine single shear. But as soon as you bump something or go through a rough track, the plates aren't strong enough, so we don't even make our single shear anymore. We just offer the double shear. And modular versus welded, we're actually trying to discontinue the welded too, just because, it's $50 difference, one crash, and you got to buy a whole new welded together one versus, spending $50 on plates. So we're trying to lean towards just the modular. So we have our modular IMCA kit and our modular open kit for USRA, where you can adjust the shock mounts up and down. So no single shear, go with the double shear, modular, way stronger.
I would agree. That's what we run. And the thing that you have to kind of think about, back when we had the single shear stuff, that's when these cars remained level. We're now, with all the hike in the left rear and all the angles that are going on down there, you got to have the double shear so that the heim joint can get its full movement and not have, because if you spacer the heim joint on a single shear, if you spacer the heim joint out so it has enough movement in the ball, you're actually putting a lot of leverage on that bolt. And I'll guarantee in today's world, you will bend those brackets. The modular one, that's all we use here. It's just simple. If the customer needs to change something, he can buy, say he bends the rear end, has to put a new tube in it or whatever. We can sell him the top part of that cup, and he can put his own back on, and it saves him a lot of money rather than cutting it off with a torch and then screwing it all up. What's the outcome of changing the load number on the right front base on track conditions in an IMCA sport mod? We didn't play as much with the sport mod as we did with the modified this year. The thing that's with that though is now that some of the guys, and we're starting to go with a little bit more load in the left rear with softer spring, that's going to probably play into it a lot more. It's basically a sport mod's really no different than a modified. You're still wanting everything to do the same thing. You just have 2 less links is all. Will a 125-pound spring in the left rear of a B-mod make it free on corner entry when getting out of the gas? Yeah, it will definitely free the car up getting in. And that's another one of those deals where you kind of will learn a lot about using trail braking and making sure that you keep the suspension loaded as much as possible. Because if you just dump out of the gas, definitely it can create some handling issues that you need to prepare for. Definitely has traction. On a rougher racetrack, it's probably not quite as secure, but I've seen a lot of guys pretty fast on some of that stuff. They are more inconsistent depending on track changes. So you just have to go with what you want to try there. I mean, it's definitely worth a try, no doubt about it. Rob's telling you, Chad, that he likes your sheet metal tool. Any chances you start making a louver? Yeah, a louver die, or any punches or dies?
We don't have any intent on that. Miller Brothers makes some really nice dies and punches and things like that, and we'll just let them keep doing a great job at it.
Okay, the question, Robbie's got a question about our 3-link DVDs. Are they mainly directed for IMCA Sport Mod, or is there enough advice set up for USRA B Mod? Or do we have a DVD for that? No, the DVDs pretty much, there's enough information in there that definitely apply to the USRA. The DVD is actually taken out of our class where we had Wissota B mods, we had IMCA Sport mods, and we had USRA B mods and some other type of B mods. So it's in general. At the time, some of the questions you'll see probably that are asked in that maybe might be more sport mod related due to the fact that the class is probably made up of 50% sport mod IMCA guys and then the rest of it. But like we had a lot of Wissota guys in the class last year. And so that video should do you a very good job for you. IMCA Sport Mod, what springs do you recommend for a base setup all 4 corners? Well, this is a general. Totally, it's just, if a guy wants to go out there, whatever type of race car you got, you have, a 500 and a 550 or 550 on the right front. I still like a little softer or a little stiffer right front with the Sport Mod because that helps get you a little bit more traction. Our standard setup is a 175 left rear and a 225 right rear. Those work very well. Now, we do have some guys that are running a pair of 500s in the front, a soft 125 left rear spring. They seem to like that setup very well too. So both of those setups work pretty well. Depending on the experience of your driver, if your driver is a little less experienced, I would head towards the stiffer right front spring. Car's a little more predictable in what it's going to do. And then once he's used to it and comfortable with your race car, then I would start changing some of those springs around. Okay. Hey, Chad, ordered some parts late August and a 3XL. Didn't fit. Die trickery took over down 43 pounds and kind of shirt is big now. Oh, the diet trickery. Got it.
Diet
Well,
trickery.
thanks for the motivation. The shirt didn't fit. Well,
We make smaller.
that's
It's
a
smaller,
marketing tool. Our diet shirt. Buy one size smaller and we'll help you with your diet. Good idea. I like that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I had a I had a gentleman. This is a quick story. How far are we behind? Okay. Quick story. I had a young man that came in here with his dad one day, and he, he has some conditions, and so he's kind of, bouncing off the walls in the shop and going through and trying to touching things in the parts room, and I'm not super nervous, but you're kind of like wondering what's going to go on and blah blah blah. So then he heads into the shock room and sits down at Bobby's desk, grabs the remote control of the TV and turns the volume up to 100. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Bobby is going to blow it. And he was real cool, and he talked to him and said, oh, we need to make that quieter. It's just too loud, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, they spent some time, and great customers, super nice people. They got ready to leave, and the guy says, no, you go give everybody a hug. And this was before the COVID thing. You go give everybody a hug. So he went and gave everybody a hug, and everything was great. And he comes to give me a hug, and he gives me a hug, and I kind of got that 66-year-old protrusion in the front of myself, that extra cushion. It's like if you bounce off of stuff, He goes, oh, you fat. And I'm like, oh, well, that's the best diet I think a guy could ever go on. And I'm like, I'm not fat. But anyway, he seen the little bump here up front. He says, oh, you fat. But that was pretty funny. Everybody got a real charge out of that. Okay, Kyle, IMCA Sport Mod. Discuss different mounting positions for the 2-link on the rear end mount, effect of drop below the housing, ahead of the center line of the axle. Kyle, that's a pretty long explanation. In my opinion, since you're running an IMCA Sport Mod, we always run our left rear an inch lower on the housing than we do on the right side. We run the right side a little bit higher. It seems like it makes the car have a little bit more traction. You get a little more leverage on that left rear so that you can run more bar angle on it, and that works pretty good. I myself have not messed a lot with it ahead of center line. It just seems to me like, once again, you still get some axle movement there, but I don't know. I just kind of stay with everything pretty much center line so that it just works together and it's predictable. I'm not saying there wouldn't be some advantages. I've just not experimented a lot with it. What right front wheel load? What?
Can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on our new IMCA plates, we have the center line row, and then we have the forward row, which has kind of been the Shaw trend or whatever. So moving the bar forward and up closer to the center line just lets you run less initial angle to get the motion. So the closer you move that point to the axle center line, the easier it is going to be to make the motion. So what you're talking about, Bob, with the pogo stick, where you don't like that, you can run a flatter bar with it up higher and closer to the center line. The key is, though, you got to be able to move forward on the chassis because I think there's a length rule, right, in IMCA?
Yeah, you've got to have a 16-inch arm.
So you got to be able to, if you're going to move up and forward 2 inches, you got to be able to go forward 2 inches on the chassis side also. So.
Gotcha. Cool. What right front wheel load changes did you make on the A mod for the track conditions? Well, here's my explanation on what changes that we did. Say, for example, on a racetrack, the car is doing what it's supposed to do, and we're pretty happy with it, but we feel like we maybe just let's put a couple more turns in it and make the wheel load just a little bit stiffer to try to get a little bit more traction off the corner and load that right front. And what I found, I kind of use that load as a situation. I don't actually have a number because every car is going to be different. But what I've found is if you have to increase that load too much, like in other words, if you go up to 4 turns of preload over your standard setup on that right front, that's pretty much telling you that the spring is too soft. Now, if you've got a 450 right front spring and you put 4 turns of preload in it, your wheel load is going to be stiffer, but you're still going to have a 450-pound spring. And Chad, you can probably highlight on that too.
Sorry, I was off track.
What right front wheel load changes did you make on that A-mod for the different track conditions? And what I told him was on the right front, a lot of times if I usually will put a couple more turns of load because of course we're loading it against the shock and putting more wheel load on that corner. But once again, you're increasing the wheel load, which is going to just put more pressure onto that spring and more load on that tire, but you're not changing the spring effect. If you have to go up to as many as 4 turns of preload, that's actually starting to tell you the condition is you probably need a little stiffer spring, because if you have too much load on a soft spring, it's not going to function correctly. It's going to increase your load on the tire, but it's still going to compress the same.
I think you were spot on there.
Okay. I was hoping I didn't have to say it 3 times because I was going to get confused on the third one.
Sorry, I was reading ahead.
That's okay. IMCA modified pull bars, biscuits or springs, which is more effective? Well, that's another can of worms to open up. In my opinion, a pull bar is all up to your driver. What it is, instead of calling it a pull bar, they need to call it a throttle control device. Because depending on, if your driver's a real throttle heavy dude on and off the throttle quite a bit, a spring might be a little better situation for him because it's going to be a little bit more forgiving and it's going to make the car not react as fast. So it's compensating for what his foot's not doing in relationship to what the torque link is doing or the pull bar is doing. The biscuits move a little bit less and they're probably a little bit more rigid. I think they load the car a little bit better. And if your driver's really, really good, keep in mind, our sport mods, and the most amount of traction you could have is a solid upper link. However, it doesn't start and stop real well. So that's why we've got the pull bar in there to kind of control the motion so that we don't bust the tires loose. I personally think, we've run all kinds of different ones. We've had many different ones in different drivers, and we find out all kind of boils down to the fact that just all depends on the driver's preference of what he feels. What have you found, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, as you and I have talked countless times, hours at end, different road trips all over, but pull bar magic is, there is none, I don't think. You're traveling 2,200 pounds, 1.25 inches. It's about what you said, the driver feel, and something that lasts, something you don't have to work on. If you have a biscuit pull bar and it lasts 75 laps, that's entirely too much work. And I've tried to make pull bars that last 25 to 35. Some guys run 60 nights. I mean, Joel Rust ran 60 nights on our 7 puck and close bar, which is in my mind too many nights. But so we got guys now going back to springs and winning with springs. So I mean, it's really, we have everything. We have small puck, big puck, spring, whatever you want. Belleville washers, we'll build anything. But my personal favorite is the big puck, I would say, and the spring probably right now. So
yeah, those two seem to be the most common.
The 7-putt is definitely a lot more work. Anytime you put it in the can and you got that stuff all greased, I mean, you've seen how many we work on at Boone, and so the older I get, the less I want to work on maintenance stuff. And everybody that races has jobs, so you would want to run a pull bar that you don't have to take apart and work on every week, in my mind. So.
Yeah, there for a while, some of those soft biscuit ones, guys were having to have 2 pull bars. So if they ran 2 nights in a row, they could do their maintenance over the week and put new biscuits in there. Well, and at that point in time, there was 3 biscuits. So that was like $45-$50 a pop every night. Well, that's almost, when you figure a new right rear tire, new pull bar biscuits, your gate fee, get into the races along with everybody else.
I'll take the
I
pull
hope you had fun.
I'll take the pull bar the last and a new right rear for $100, Alex.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. There's nothing more miserable than working on one of them pull bars all the time. But anyway, sorry, off the subject. IMCA Sport Mod crate or claim engine. Running a claim and can't seem to get equal drive off the corner as the crates. Change shocks, springs, and bars. Well, once again, now keep in mind the biggest thing, people don't completely always relate to the fact that you've got a 2-barrel carburetor on an open engine that's running 7,200 RPMs or whatever the case is. So the RPMs alone, the 2-barrel is going to dump more fuel in it than the good old 4-barrel, because the 4-barrel is going to dump fuel in the front part, and then it's going to work consecutively, so it's going to be so much easier to drive. In my opinion, the drivability factor between those 2 engines is all a carburetor. I think that 4-barrel carburetor is where the magic is at. Now granted, when the racetracks was pretty heavy, pretty hammered down, it's hard to beat mashing a big old 2-barrel and hauling down the front straightaway and all that stuff. But when it gets really slick, they're just a little harder to drive. And way back years ago, I drove a car. Well, my car I had a relatively large engine with a 4-barrel. And one night, one of my friends wanted me to drive his spare car and run it in the division below the late models in the I don't remember now what they called. They were a stock stub type late model or whatever. So I did that. Well, his engine was identical to my engine. The only difference in his car was built by the same person. Our stuff was as identical as could be, but man, I had a hell of a time driving that 2-barrel. Because you didn't have the flexibility of the throttle, easing into the throttle and open it up. So I truly believe a lot of it has to do with that's where the big difference is. Left rear shock. More often do I want to run a stiffer or softer shock, and when to change it? Well, Brody, what we've found with the left rear shock is a situation where it all depends on how good the driver is at trail braking. So sometimes we'll actually build a shock that's pretty heavy so that when they dump off the throttle, the shock keeps it up in the air. Is that the maximum traction? In my opinion, not necessarily. But does it help your driver feel comfortable, and does it help him win races? Yep, it definitely does. I would run a softer shock on the left rear if my driver was really good with throttle and brake management, because it doesn't try to load the tire so much, in comparison to, being kind of that povo stick thing in a sense. You've got some super stiff shock up there that in situations, on a rough situation, it can be a handful to drive. Trailing arms. Oh, I forgot all about this. We promised everybody that we were going to do that chassis school giveaway tonight. And what that giveaway is, of course, everybody that has come to a chassis school last year if they let us know and they keep us informed, everybody, anytime somebody wins a race, we put their name in this bucket. And so in this right here, there's some people in here that have 10 names in it. Some of them that have 18 names, 18 times in it. So we're going to draw out one lucky customer out of this mess. And Amy made this cool thing, you know. Now, doesn't this look edible? I mean, when I first seen her come out with this, oh my gosh, we're getting Starburst tonight. Yay. But it's actually names. So I'm going to pull out a name here. And here is the news. Jim Bloom from the PA New York School has won himself a school free for next year. So Jim, contact Amy tomorrow and she'll get you all set up. Just send a message there on Facebook, and congratulations and congratulations on having such a great year. That's pretty cool. Congratulations, Jim. Okay, question. Trailing arms mounted in front of the housing or directly below Shaw chassis. You want to make that bigger, Garrett? Shaw chassis. I know Wehrs has Shaw bird cages, sorry, Chad, but remember a conversation in the previous episode about in front of the housing being beneficial. Can't find it, though.
Rewind this episode 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We just went over it.
Yeah, TJ, we just actually covered that really well. So go ahead and rewind this, and we'll left rear soft spring with preload. A mod, more turns in or out for more drive. In theory, more turns in there should give you more drive. What happens though, the more preload you put in the left rear, the looser the car will be on corner entry. So when you make that change, and it's just like we say in the schools, which is the signs up above here, it talks about the 3 phases of the corner. So you need more traction where? You need more traction off the corner? Well, let's back it up and let's go back to the beginning of the corner. So if you if you just screw in a couple more, 3 or 4 more turns in the left rear, it's going to help you off the corner. But the problem is you've got to be prepared getting in. You might need to put a little bit more panhard bar in it. You might need to do some adjusting like that so that it helps you going in. Now, it's possible maybe the car is getting already too tight getting in. So in the middle, you're actually shaking the car to get loose, and the car actually has enough traction. It's just that you made it free in the middle of the corner. So when you did that, that actually lost traction off the corner. So once again, and I stress the fact in all the classes that phase 2 of the corner is whoever goes through phase 2 is the guy that's going to win the race. Because if you can go through phase 2 faster than anybody, you can give up horsepower because you've got raw speed, and speed's going to get every time, guaranteed. Thanks, Brody. Really enjoyed watching. Garrett's playing tricks on me here. Hey guys, really enjoy watching every week, and I'm sure everyone else does. UMP modified, set up 0 index, 80-pound, 20-inch spring with shock behind the housing, about 200 pounds of extended load, 50 degrees top rod. Car wants to fall on corner entry if not trail braking. Any idea how to keep the car up on posture? I hate to say it, but in that situation, that soft spring is going to allow that car to come down. So the trail braking issues really, that's such a tuning device. And you don't have to be on the brakes a lot. You just have to apply enough pressure so that the car doesn't fall that split second. and then get back on the throttle. And once you're back on the throttle, you don't have to be hammered down wide open, but once you're back on the throttle, the car will keep itself up, because everything that you're saying here is exactly what you might want to do, and it should work perfectly fine, but it's going to require you to do a little bit of trail braking. Okay, guys, we are 5 more minutes. So we'll take Dan's question. USRA B-Mod, you talked about scaling the car with a 175 spring and then putting a 100-pound spring in it and preloading it 2 inches. Once I get the scale numbers with the 100-pound spring, can I use those as my scale numbers? Yeah, most definitely. You're just going to want to make sure you get the scale numbers, and that actually wasn't what we actually do with that is more of an A-mod use, not necessarily a B-mod use. Because what we do with, when I said about moving it, putting a 175-pound spring in there, it's just a unit that we use to scale the car, get our heights right, everything like that. Then we put the soft spring in there and make the turns accordingly so that you have the amount of load in the cars where you want it to be. Any comments, Chad?
Sounds good. Get out and vote tomorrow. Don't forget.
Knowledge Center. One thing about it, if you notice my new set here, guys, check this all out. We got some parts back here. This is actually the set for the school. Oh yeah, check out. Oh, look at the Wehrs Machine showroom.
I got parts too, Bob.
Awesome. Holy moly, look at all those parts. Anyway, so we've got some stuff here, and this is going to be where we're going to start doing some of the new RTI Knowledge Center videos. And why we have this brake stuff, sorry, wrong side. Why we have this brake stuff up here is that's the next one that Garrett and I are going to be working on, is a brake video for the RTI Knowledge Center. So stay tuned, keep up with that. We're going to start finally getting able to do the time and put the time into getting some of these done, and finally got some of the things out of the way. Fishing's not real good anymore because it's too cold. I finally got my boat bought, so now I can put it in storage. Don't really know why I did that, but that makes a lot of sense, but whatever. So now we can focus on the RTI Knowledge Center. Anything else that you would like to add, Chad? We got any other questions?
I think that was a good show. Good night.
Oh yeah, Eric, we are working on new videos for the RTI Knowledge Center. We'll definitely have some new ones there. I got behind on that, and I apologize for that. Just kind of got other projects, and sometimes there's not enough of me to always go around, so I pick and choose. But we'll get that going and get some new stuff for you. So once again, thanks, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate all the comments that you guys have had. We enjoy doing it. I know I enjoy doing it. Chad enjoys doing it. We'll look forward to seeing you here 2 weeks from tonight. And like Chad said, don't forget to go vote tomorrow. It's very, very important that we all vote and voice our opinion on what we want out of it, so that at least you voted, so you can say you had something to do with it, and it's your right. Some people don't have that right. You're fortunate to have that right. So good night, everybody, and have a good night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks. See ya.